The Kenya shilling has stabilized at 129 shillings to the dollar over a year. Meanwhile, foreign exchange reserves have grown from $6.5 billion to $11.8 billion, equivalent to 5 months of import cover. The Nairobi Securities Exchange, a key parameter of economic confidence and investor sentiment, has recorded a robust recovery. Market capitalization at the NSC now stands at Kenya shillings 2.5 trillion, reflecting renewed investor optimism, and it's because of our policy consistency. I salute the private sector for its indispensable and facilitative role in delivering public goods and services. One such example is the Affordable Housing Program, a flagship initiative that is transforming lives and reshaping our urban landscape. It has already created 320,000 jobs across the building and construction value chains now, and we had a conversation with the industry last week, and we are ramping up the numbers of people hired in this space to 600,000 in the next 2 months. We have decided to include a new shift to be able not just to accelerate the delivery of the markets, the hostels, and the affordable houses that we are constructing in that space, but to also reduce the time that we are that is spent on delivery of units, because we already have a pipeline of 700,000 housing units where we have identified land, we've done designs, and we are rolling out the construction. Through the localization of supply chains, we are creating impact and expanding opportunity. We have ring-fenced, for example, 11 billion shillings for the Juakali sector to manufacture key housing components, from doors to windows to hinges, and many fittings, stimulating grassroots enterprise, strengthening livelihoods, and anchoring economic growth in the communities that need it the most. I'm happy that this meeting is co-sponsored by the Juakali sector. And they have begun to wear suits. And they are now telling me they are no longer Juakali. You know, they are serious people. And in fact, some of them are saying they are now corporatized. You know, they have bank accounts and they also pay taxes. The private sector equally anchors core value chains, including agriculture, which employs over 40% of Kenyans, ICT and financial services, in which Kenya leads in innovation, and of course tourism, where accommodation and food services grew by 26% in Q2 of 2024, a powerful indicator of economic rebound. You're also aware that we are expanding our conference footprint and infrastructure with the development of the Bomas of Kenya that is underway to make sure that we can do more conferencing, and we are also expanding hotel capacity in the city with the construction by the private sector of another 3 hotels at the Bomas of Kenya that will be underway shortly to make sure that Kenya becomes a truly conference destination. I take pride in the success of the Hustler Fund under the Financial Inclusion Fund, a pioneering empowerment initiative. In just under 3 years, it has disbursed over 72 billion to 26 million Kenyans, mobilized over Kenya shillings 5 billion in savings, and provided vital working capital to millions of micro-entrepreneurs, proving that even the smallest businesses can thrive with the right support. Our critics, the naysayers, the perpetual pessimists, and the chorus that never sees anything working in Kenya would have you believe that the Hustler Fund is a failure, as it is indicated in today's newspapers. They say this because they either do not understand or refuse to acknowledge the daily realities of millions of Kenyans this fund was designed to empower. Let me give you a background to the Hustler Fund. As a member of parliament, from my home to Eldoret town, there is a place called Mailitisa. And in this Mailitisa, people sell wares, roast maize, bananas, fruits, many things. And there is a fellow who comes there with 10,000 shillings. He lends somebody in the morning 100 shillings and waits for him in the evening. You have to pay 100 shillings plus 10% in the evening. 500 shillings, you pay him 10% with the 500 shillings in the evening. And that good man, sometimes called Shylock, does this on a daily basis. So there are Kenyans who pay 10% interest daily. What does that translate to in a year? You will calculate the numbers, right? Why we rolled out the Hustler Fund was for three fundamental reasons. And that is why we called it the Financial Inclusion Fund. It was not supposed to compete with banks. It wasn't meant to replace credit in banks. It was meant to correct a market failure, that there are people who banks and financial lenders cannot touch, even with the longest pole that you can find. But they exist. They are not included in the financial system, and they need support. So we rolled out the Hustler Fund to attend and to include these micro entrepreneurs. You know, people who sit in offices that have air condition, speaking from Nairobi, in Posh hotels, don't think 500 shillings matters to anybody, because they don't understand the hassles of small people. They don't understand what goes on in real Kenya, down there, where 500 shillings can make somebody earn a living, be able to put food on their table, and be able to go about their businesses. Strategic interventions in agriculture are delivering tangible results. Yields of maize, sugar, tea, coffee, milk, and others have risen by at least 50% in some cases, leading to reduced imports, higher farmer incomes, and enhanced food security for our country. You will remember that we have been a perennial importer of sugar. This year, we reduced our sugar importation by 70%. You also know that we've been importing even our staple food maize. We have reduced our imports of maize by 80%. And from the look of things, we will not be importing any maize this year or even into next year, because of the interventions that we have put in place and because God has been gracious to us and we have had some rain. So I want to persuade my good friends, the people who talk from Nairobi. They talk to us from Posh hotels. You know, they have money from this NGO and that NGO and the other one. Please, there are Kenyans who today have a mechanism for them to borrow money. And for your information, these small people who borrow 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, they have mobilized 5 billion shillings in savings over the last 3 years. 5 billion shillings in savings. There are people who would have wanted to save 20, 30, 40, 50 shillings a day. They did not have a mechanism on where to save without going into a place where their money could be lost. Now they have a mechanism under Hustler Fund that has the backstopping of the government of Kenya. They know their money is safe. And if they have mobilized 5 billion shillings in savings, micro, very small enterprise people who borrow 100, 500, 1,000 shillings, they do not deserve the condemnation that I see being leveled against them by some of the people in this space. To some of our friends, a micro loan of 1,000 seems too small to matter to anybody. But that is only because they have never walked in the shoes of those who were left at the margins of our society for far too long. They have never experienced the despair of being locked out of the financial system like millions of Kenyans have been for a long time, of having no credit history, no collateral, and no chance. That's what Hustler Fund is affording. And now, those same critics are spreading fear and despondency by falsely claiming that the fund has a 60% default rate. That is a deliberate distortion of facts. The truth, backed by data, is that the Hustler Fund has a recovery rate of 83.3%, nearly identical to that of formal banking sector, whose repayment rates stands at 83.6%. So what exactly are these people telling us? That ordinary, hard-working Kenyans are serial defaulters? Of course they are not. Kenyans are better than that. Kenyans are honest. Kenyans are resilient. Given the right tools and a fair chance, Kenyans will always do their part. I want to say that we will not be distracted. Those who, when facts do not serve their agenda, resort to fabricating narratives to prop up their falsehood. We understand, we remain unchallenged in building a new, inclusive, fair, equitable society. And I count on the private sector as essential allies and collaborators in this journey.